Hello, this is Sudhakar Maparthi. Welcome to Crowdsource AI project. Today we're going to discuss about AWS IAM permissions boundaries. It's a very short topic, and I will show using C1 C2 diagrams. So let me give you the C1 C2 diagram for permission boundaries. Okay. So a permission boundary is a type of policy that you can set to a user um, permission boundary. So let me draw C1 C2 diagram. So let's say you have a user and you have a policy, and then you have a policy boundary. So for this user, I'm setting this policy boundary. And this policy boundary is basically represented using a JSON object. So let's call this as this is the JSON object. So this JSON object here, what we are seeing on the screen, this one, is here. And we are using this JSON as a policy boundary attached to this user. So which means that I can do all the operations on S3, as S3 on the service S3, I can do these actions. Star means all, CloudWatch and EC2. I can, but that doesn't make, that's the boundary, because you're using it as a boundary. So that is the maximum that I can do, but I may not have the ability to do it because that's the boundary. That's the possible things that I can do, that this user can do. Okay, so now you attach a policy. This is the actual policy that you want to do. Okay, so let me see this. So here we are saying IAM create user. This is a policy that I can create a user. Now, can I create a user when I attach this policy? Here, no. Why? Because the boundary says you can only do these things on S3, CloudWatch, and EC2. Nothing to do with IAM. So because the IAM is not there, so the only way you can fix this is either you update this and add to the boundary IAM colon star, then you can create, you can do IAM create user action. So basically it's an intersection of whatever is the possible things that you are allowed to do, not allowed to do. It's a boundary. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So you have this policy document that is attached to the user, and this is the boundary. Okay. The overlapping thing, the intersection, are the only ones that you are effectively can do, the intersection. So similarly, here, so finally, basically, you have to have that intersection of identity and permissions intersection you are allowed to do. Okay. So, and this JSON, okay, let me just complete this diagram. Yeah. So this is the first one. Let's say this one. And this is the second one, second JSON. Okay. So that's how those are controlled. So why do they set these boundaries for this user? Because sometimes this user may get all these permissions for policies attached, but we don't want to delete them. We want to restrict them by simply allowing only what we want them to be allowed, or whatever they want to let this user do. You just put that boundary policy, and you will be able to control the access. The boundary policy is also a policy, and then the identity policy is also a policy. And those policies are stored in the form in a JSON, let's say, the JSON policy document. Okay. So hope that is making sense. And what I did in Skillbank app, I created a policy document and imported, and I got basically that the JSON that we used in this example. So here we are just developing all these possible policy types under the policy section. Okay, hold on, my projects. I closed everything. Service. Outsourced IAM service. Policies. Okay. So we have policies that we can define and then put a JSON inside it. There are some identity type based policies, resource based policies. Now I added permissions boundary policy. So if you have this identity policy, and if those actions are permitted on those resources in this boundary policy, then you can do it. Otherwise, you will not. So you're setting a boundary. Even though I am making you full administrator, here by putting a boundary, I will be able to control what you can do, you cannot do. So it's just a policy document. All right. That's all for today. Take care. So when you read those boundary, when you read that permissions and boundaries documentation, you should be able to understand very easily. Okay, these are all verbose. They are saying the same thing. There are different kinds of policies, and finally, the intersection is what you may have. Okay, so lots and lots of verbiage, examples, and etc. etc. All right, when we see some other services, we should be able to go in detail some of these things. Maybe there are some exceptions and certain things that what you cannot do, but those things may be applicable to understand when we are dealing with that appropriate service. Okay, good luck. And if you want to get in touch with me, please use LinkedIn and connect. And then I would be happy to work with you on exploring how we can teach a machine using these JSON objects, importing them into crowdsourced AI project, and then making the crowd source AI project connected to ChatGPT and answer questions using English like prompts. So that's the idea. So I give some data, I give a question, and ChatGPT should understand that question and use the data that I'm supplying and answer me back in English. So that's the first project that I'm integrating in crowdsourced AI. So I'm setting up IAM service as an example so that we could demonstrate that integration. Okay, that's all for today. Bye bye.